All right. Hi, everybody. I hope that you are able to get this stream going well. I'm Caleb. I am the lead pastor here at the Feast Church, and we are so excited for you to be with us at church today here in this digital context. I just want to start out by just, acknowledging this is weird. This is different. If you are, if you're a longtime member, we're really excited that you're here too. I'm not sure exactly how this will work. I'm not used to preaching this way. So hopefully everything goes as smoothly as it can, and we'll let you know what's going on. I want to start with a few announcements just to let you know what's going on with us as a church. First of all, generally, as far as cancellations and stuff go, we're taking things week by week here at the Feast Church. We know that we don't really know how long we're in for with social distancing and quarantine and all that kind of stuff. And so what we're going to do is every week kind of make decisions about what's coming up as much as possible. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Jesus says that every day is enough worry of its own. And so that's kind of the way we're going to handle it. That being said, our feast groups, which are our midweek Bible study groups, those will be happening via Zoom meetings this week. Zoom is an online meeting software that's available. We're going to be getting you guys details if you're regular parts of our groups about how we can do that, but there'll be a group Tuesday night at 7 and Wednesday night at 7. And we're doing Zoom because it allows for conversation. We want our Bible studies always to be interactive. So that's our plan for Bible studies for this week. Also, right now, just plan for church to be like this next week. We may change a little bit of how we do it, but we want to make it as easy as possible. Hopefully, we'll be able to add some graphics and things like that next week to make it a little more enjoyable. Other things for you to know. Really important. If you guys have stuff going on in your lives that are making, or if your life is being very difficult right now because of everything that's going on, we want you to tell us. If you're having trouble getting food or supplies, or you're worried about going out because of your health, please let us know. We'll get you some food. We'll get you some stuff. We'll deliver it to your house. Please let us know if you need that. If you are getting pinched by childcare issues because your kids are home, but you've got to work, please let us know. We'll do what we can to help. If you've got financial issues, if you're out of work because of the closures and you're kind of worried about how you're going to be able to pay your rent and stuff like that, please let us know about that. We'd love to help you. And if you're just feeling lonely or you're feeling isolated because of us all staying at home, let us know. We'll do what we can to try to help with that. Within appropriate kind of measures. We've got all these awesome technological tools at our hands now. And so if there's any of those issues, please, please, please let us know. Our email address, thefeastprovidence@gmail.com. Go to our website and click the Contact Us tab. Any of that stuff, we really want to help you and to bless you if you've got something that you need help with right now in this really weird time. Finally, we're going to try to do a Q&A here. You're probably watching a variety of places. Some of you are on our website. Some of you are on social media. Some of you are various places. If you want to ask a question, you're going to have to go to the actual YouTube link. I believe our social media should have two links. One is to our webpage and one is directly to the YouTube. If you go to the YouTube one, there should be a chat window. I have a live chat happening on the right side of my thing over here. And so if you have a question, pump it in there. We'll try to do Q&A at the end. If you're new to us, we always try to do that in our sermons where we give people a chance to ask a question back. When we're done here, we're going to move into some prayer time, which will be in a private Facebook group for our members. But if you're checking us out for the first time, you want to be part of that, slip me an email, again, at those places I already mentioned, through our contact page, through the live chat, and we'll try, or not an email, tell me your Facebook username. We'll try to get you added to that. I know that's something people are interested in, and we're just trying to find best ways to keep confidentiality and not in the whole world, but also let people be participants. So that's all kind of tricky. I'm going to do my best to preach the best I know how, sitting in my basement in front of lights to a little light on a camera. I feel like I'm preaching to Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey today. And so, we're going to do our best. And hopefully that will be a blessing to you today. Live chat must be working. Hi, Tim. It's good to see you, man. All right. We'll get into our sermon. There was an 80-year-old woman named Cecilia Jimenez who lived in, and I may have butchered that pronunciation, in Spain. And Cecilia had this painting in her church that meant so much to her in her life. Through the decades as she had come to worship, she would see this painting painting, a fresco on the wall, and it would really make her feel like she was closer to God. And so she was really dismayed when a leak came into the church building and some of the water started to drip down the wall. And slowly but surely, that water worked its way underneath the fresco and started to cause the fresco to chip away so that it was coming away from the wall. There was flaking. Some of the paint was being pulled off. And it was heartbreaking to Cecilia. She had always loved this painting. It always meant so much to her. And she just felt like something had to be done, that there should be a way for future generations to be blessed the way she had been blessed. And so she sat down and she worked with the priests at that cathedral. And she said, I want to do something to fix this. And they blessed her. They said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Let's work towards it. And they made a plan to fix this fresco that she cared about so much. Fast forward a few months, and there are police in the church investigating a terrible case of vandalism. See, Cecilia's fresco that she loved so much had been vandalized. It seems that someone had broken into the church and tried to mess up this painting, to try to ruin this painting that had been there for hundreds of years. And as police started to investigate, things weren't totally adding up. And then finally, to restore. But this is the painting. I'm sure you've seen it on the internet before. That is the original on the far left or right. I'm not sure how this is working on the screen. In the middle is the damage done by the water. And then that terrifying abstractionist piece on the side is what happened after Celia restored the painting. She meant her best. She tried her best, but she didn't really know what she was doing. And so in an attempt to bring back to life this thing that was so important to her faith, she fell flat on her face and she failed. And it's hard for us when we fail at stuff that we want to do well. I think we've all been sort of crestfallen by something we attempted to do that then failed for us. Maybe you have tried to say something in a very kind way to someone and totally messed it up and offended them. Maybe you've pulled your favorite dress out of the dryer and it used to be white and now it's pink and you cannot wear it any longer because in your attempts to clean it, you've ruined it. Maybe you have tried to build a cake for someone and it comes out lopsided and the frosting is like dripping from the sides and it's just not right. Maybe you've put hundreds of dollars and hundreds of hours into building a garden so your family has fresh produce, and by August, all you have is raccoon poop in your backyard. It stinks when we try to do something and then we fail at it. We've been going as a church through the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, and in Ezra and Nehemiah, the people of Jerusalem, the Jewish people, are trying to do something big together. We've been going through that book because we've talked about what does it mean to try to build something for God? What does it mean when we get together and try to do something new and do something special? Where we try to make our communities a better place, where we try to help hurting families, all that kind of stuff. And Ezra and Nehemiah is this story of God's people coming together to try to build something. And we've seen that story start with such hope and such promise as the rulers of Persia have given their blessing to this project of rebuilding the city of Jerusalem and rebuilding the temple. We've seen as money has been poured into that project, as good leaders have taken charge of trying to help build up the city and build up the temple. And in all this, you have to think there are high, high hopes for the people of Jerusalem that something beautiful is going to come out of this. And today, the passage we're going to look at is a passage kind of after they've done a lot of work. The passage isn't in Ezra and Nehemiah, it's actually in Haggai, a small prophetic book that takes place during all of these projects with Ezra and Nehemiah. Haggai is name dropped in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. And it's a passage about how things aren't really working exactly the way they expect. And I hope it's a passage that'll give us some encouragement, particularly in our weird, crazy world that we're living in today. If you want to look at this on your Bible, you're already on a web browser, right? So go ahead and just use Bible Gateway. That'd be great. We're going to look at Haggai chapter 2. If Haggai is new for you, that is Haggai. Haggai chapter 2, or there's only 2 chapters. And I'm going to start in verse 1. On the 21st day of the 7th month, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai. Speak to Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, to Joshua, son of Jozadak, the high priest, and to the remaining of the people. Ask them, who of you is left who saw this house in its former glory? How does it look to you now? Does it not seem to you like nothing? But now be strong, Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Be strong, Joshua, son of Jozadak, the high priest. Be strong, all of you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work, for I am with you, declares the Lord Almighty. This is what I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt, and my spirit remains among you. Do not fear. This is what the Lord Almighty says. In a little while, I will once more shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land. I will shake all nations, and what is desired by all nations will come. And I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord Almighty. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty. The glory of the present house will be greater than the glory of the former house, says the Lord Almighty. And in this place I will grant peace, declares the Lord Almighty. Maybe you've seen this show on Netflix called Nailed It. I know our family really likes it. It's a show where they get very average to terrible bakers, and they bring them on set, and they show them these beautiful cakes and pastries and baked goods. Like the kinds of birthday cakes that would cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars from a professional bakery. And they show it to them, and they give them a recipe, and they ask these terrible bakers to try to build that same cake. And when they're done, they put it behind kind of a screen, and they drop the screen, and the baker goes, nailed it, to try to kind of humorously show how bad their job is. And usually it is just terrible. What results are food that you would not want to eat, that's kind of disgusting and, stomach turning and just bad. And the show is kind of pokes fun lovingly at these terrible bakers and their attempts to recreate something that was way beyond their skill level. It's kind of what's going on here with Haggai. Haggai shows up speaking on behalf of the Lord, and he says, hey, did any of you see the old temple, the one that got destroyed that we're trying to rebuild? Do you remember what it looked like? Do you remember how great it was? Have you looked at what you built? We really don't have nearly as good of a temple, do we, guys? And at this point, Zerubbabel, who already is living life with the name Zerubbabel, goes, nailed it. I mean, it's embarrassing. This is God basically saying, what you guys have built just really is not as good as what used to be there. You can imagine the pain that would cause. Some of these people had lived in a foreign land and had moved their families literally across the known world to be part of rebuilding this temple. And they had given so much time and so much effort, so much energy. We've read in Ezra and Nehemiah all the hard work that they had done to try to make this work. And to have all of that just kind of scoffed at, to go, yeah, this really isn't what it should be. And the thing that hurt most is they know it's true. It's not like they're hearing something that's unfair or criticism that's, overly negative. They know this isn't as good as it should be. But with the resources we have and the struggle we've had, this is the best that we can pop out. Thankfully, that's not the only thing that Haggai says, however. After kind of acknowledging the reality, and I think there's a real message for us here, that acknowledging the difficulty of our reality is like a first step. And as much as it might seem a little cruel for Haggai to say, well, this isn't too much, is it? It's kind of like him putting his arm around them and going, yeah, this didn't work out the way we wanted, did it? And so they acknowledge their problem. And then he says a couple of important things. The first thing he says is, this is going to be all right. God is not leaving town. It's not like God looked at this temple and said, whew, that's a mess, and then skipped. God is still here, and he is still present, and he is still working. And so don't worry, the Spirit of the Lord is still in your midst. And even though you're looking at this temple and it's just not what you hoped, God is not done. The story is not over. Just because you tried something and it failed doesn't mean it wasn't worth doing or that there's not a future ahead with it. Along similar lines, he then says, God's going to pour out all kinds of blessings. He casts a vision for the future where he says there's going to be more financial resources coming your way so that we can continue to work on this and make it better. And that's important for their active, for the project that they're involved with at this moment. They're going to need some extra resources and some extra time and all that kind of stuff. But then there's even another step. He says there's going to be peace in this place. If you know the history of Jerusalem, peace is not common ever from their days to this day. There seems to always be strife and political intrigue and infighting between groups and all of that kind of stuff. But there's this vision cast by Haggai. No, not only is this temple going to be beautiful, but it's going to be the thing that sparks peace in this land. For these guys that have been living in fighting and enmity and all these issues, peace would sound so beautiful. As Christians look back on this past and we see almost a messianic prophecy here that the great Messiah that the Jewish people have been waiting for would come and bring peace. And we believe that that's Jesus, that Jesus' actions on that very plot of land as he comes and is arrested and is tried bring peace to the world. And that's a far bigger vision than Ezra or Nehemiah or Haggai or anybody has when they're putting rocks on top of rocks to just build a building. And so the message of it is when things fail, God's with you, stick to it, something beautiful can happen. Now, this is important for us because sometimes we do have moments of failure. In ministry, I have had some pretty devastating moments. Some of you may remember the art show that we did early on. We were trying in the very early days of our church to connect with as many folks as possible. And one of the things we want to do is try to connect to artists, to try to find a space for them to express themselves. There was sort of this feeling that there were some artists who weren't kind of top tier and getting into galleries who still had beautiful things that they should be able to share. And so we tried to create a space for artists to bring in their work and share them. And we thought this was a great idea and would connect with new people and help create new relationships. And it just fell flat on its face. Attendance was terrible. Some of the presenters were really good, some of them not so good. Certainly, we weren't seen, I think, as credible or interesting by anybody who's in the art community. It was not good. There was one artist, and I'm not picking on them. They were a beautiful print artist, and some of their prints, they couldn't get printed in time. The printers did the wrong job, and so instead they brought a sculpture that was, I'm not an artist, so maybe this was great. It was like a log of pink polyurethane. And it wasn't so much the art as the fact that it smelled like polyurethane, like really strong. So we're in this location. I'm not sure if our hosts even really wanted us there. And we're having this show. Nobody's showing up. We're trying to put a chipper face on it. We're all getting this like contact high from smelling this terrible polyurethane. It's the most miserable feeling in the world. And at the end of the night, after all 7 people that came or whatever left, I remember just feeling terribly depressed. There's a song by the band Coldplay that I think kind of expresses this feeling. Nobody ever said it was easy. No one ever said it would be this hard. And you get this feeling in those moments where you're striving for something, where you say, God, I know that you didn't say this would be easy, but man, I never thought it would be so hard. And there's this question of like, why are you not helping us out here? Why have you not done something to make this easier? We're trying to work for you. Why are we struggling and struggling and struggling and stuff is just falling flat on its face? Why can't you help us out? This may be a feeling that you're feeling right now in the situation we're in. I know we had a birthday party planned for a kiddo that we've got to cancel. Explaining coronavirus to a 7-year-old is not fun. We had a vacation that we had planned, or a trip to a conference that was us and the Bates were going to go. It's not happening now. And we're going to do good work there. We're going to have a good time. And now it's all falling apart. There's so many plans, so many things we strive for. And it's like, God, you didn't say life would be easy, but why has it got to be so hard? And what we're trying to do and we're trying to build and we're trying to create in our lives just doesn't work out. And a lot of the stuff we're dealing with right now is just inconvenience. But there's times where it's more than inconvenience. There's moments where we have this feeling in our gut of we tried to do something, it didn't work out like we thought it would. The first time that you visit a child in prison, you know that feeling. The first time that you sign divorce papers, you know that feeling. And so what do we do? Where do we go? How do we recover from those moments where we've failed, where we've tried to do something and it doesn't work well? And I just want you to take some encouragement from this passage in Haggai. One of the first things you can do is just to accept, like, it's not what we wanted it to be. Like, there was something healing about we wanted X and we're living in Y. Admitting that the world is not how it should be is important. Maybe you've been frustrated with the media this week, and sometimes where you hear people talking about all this stuff we're doing and all these cancellations and all the social distancing, and they go, oh, it's just simple common sense precautions. And at some point we're like, no, this is not simple. This is not normal. Maybe it's common sense, but like, this is kind of crazy. And it's really helpful to hear somebody go, this is nuts. We can survive it. We need to do it, but this is weird. And having a moment to mourn, having a moment to look at that project that you're trying to be active in and seeing it fall apart and then go, man, that's not what we wanted. It's helpful to be able to do that. But secondly, to hear that message from Haggai, the Spirit of the Lord is still with you. Okay, this is not where you wanted to be, but that doesn't mean there's nowhere else to go. And so trusting that God can move you into a new place and to do a new thing. Because the beautiful thing is Haggai does not just say, we're going to take this deficit and bring it back to level. He says, God is going to do something even beyond that, even more amazing than what you expected. See, God says, in your failure, we will not only fix the problems, but we will up the ante. And that is so true. I'm sure that you can think right now of moments where something fell apart and you did not know where to go from there. And then ultimately you saw the blessing in it. We were talking our leadership team meeting, all the stuff that's happening right now, and the fact that we're doing church on YouTube at this moment. Like, oh, what does this mean? What is the purpose of this? Why would God allow these things to happen? And we don't know. There's all kinds of things, and I'm not going to even put it all at God. I think there's a lot of mess in the world. But there's also opportunities. Maybe we get into a pattern of checking in with each other that we should have done all the time. Maybe there's times where we've been isolated from community, where if we use technology a little better, we could have connected. I know there are some of you listening to this sermon today that are ecstatic because you've moved away and you want to be at the feast, but you haven't been able to. Maybe we'll learn better how to do this stuff all the time, even if we're gathered together, so that we can continue to bless one another. Like, there's things that we can learn. And the prayer is that God gives us greater things to do as we move beyond the current situation and our current sadness. I want you to apply this however you need to in your life. As a church, we're going to try stuff that fails. You have maybe had that experience with me where we've tried an event at church and it didn't really go the way that we thought. And we all kind of know it didn't go the way we thought. And I come to you and I start saying with my mouth, hey, don't worry about it. It's good that we were faithful. Thank you so much. Your work is so appreciated. But then I'm kind of dead behind the eyes because I'm clearly mourning. I'm giving you the pep talk that I would like to have. Those days are going to happen. If we try to do awesome things to connect to our community and bless other people, we will do stuff that are a waste of time and waste of money in our minds and in our economy. But ultimately, that God is using to build bigger things. So it's okay to try stuff and it not to come off, because God's still with us. His Spirit's still present. In our families, there are times where we have relationships that are broken, things that are not working the way that we want them to. And that's okay. We work through those, and we know that God can bring healing to those things. And in your own life, there are times where you will mess up. We are so prone to not be the people we want to be. And that's all right, because we're not a finished product. And that maybe some of your failures are going to be these really weird building blocks for something incredible. I was thinking this week, if you've been to the Wailing Wall, if you've been to Jerusalem and you've seen the remnants of Herod's temple built on top of this work that we see in Ezra and Nehemiah, some of the stones these people laid are still there, and they're still not just a tourist attraction, but also like an important spiritual home for millions of people. God was doing something. And he can do something even in our failures and even our disappointments. I know some of you guys may be very disappointed this week and very frustrated. Some of you are already tired of your children after 18 hours of quarantine with them. Some of you, and social distancing, whatever the correct term is, right? You're tired. You're looking ahead, and some of us are doing this thing where we're like, is this 2 weeks? Is this 8 weeks? Is this 3 months? And we just feel terrible. In those disappointments, in those failures, in those things not going the way we planned, please hear that the Spirit of the Lord is still among His people. He's going to move with you, and that there is peace on the other end as He continues to try to help us. That's all I have for sermon. We do have comments coming in a little bit. Hi, Myron. It's so good to see you guys. I didn't even think about it. I mean, we're having all kinds of people here that I wouldn't even think about. So that's cool. Does anybody have questions? I can do Q&A if you have any questions about the passage or the message. I will explain what's next if not. So if you have a question, go ahead and type in over here into the chat. That's again on the YouTube link. You'll have to kind of click through to the YouTube page to do that. If you would like to be part of our prayer time, that would be great. Send us messages about that if you're not part of our private Facebook group. For those who are, in a minute here, I'm going to end this broadcast and turn this off. And I'm going to jump over to Facebook. I'm going to get into the private group for the feast. Those of you who are in it knows that's where we do prayer requests, announcements, that kind of stuff. And I'll do a live video there where I'll just kind of say, hey, how are we doing? And I'll ask you guys to give me prayer requests like we'd usually do at church. And we can kind of check in with each other and we'll pray through those things. So I don't know if I stalled long enough. If you have questions, maybe it's going to work. If you do have questions, send them in and I'll talk about it next week when I'm sitting here in my basement. So I think that does it. Let me pray for you guys and then I will switch over to that group. Father, I ask for peace in our lives. We are living through a lot of disruption. And there are a lot of things that we are staring at, and it may not be the crumbling of a temple, but it's falling through vacation plans or work not doing what it should be, or paychecks not coming, or babysitting needs that we never anticipated. And we're just help us to see the church. So in Jesus' name I pray. All right. Thank you guys. Like I said, go on over to the private group if you want. And if you're listening to us for the first time, that's great. Be back next week. And we'd love for you to check us out. We'll celebrate Easter maybe in June. Who knows? But whatever happens, we'd love for you guys to come see our church sometimes. Thanks for watching.